link from my phone to
my knee in the camera.
So we are live.
Yay!
I feel like I should set a little timer because I said we could start at like 8:10 to allow people to come in. Oh, so it does allow us to see the viewers as well on here.
And it's getting recorded, right? Like you can save it.
From my understanding, I mean, this is my first time using this streaming platform, so it should all be recorded. And I'll be able to post it following that. So I'm going to set a little timer, or should I do 5 minutes or 10 minutes?
5.
Yeah.
I feel like 10 minutes is going to be like drunk.
Yeah, that's a little long.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm
especially when you're in anticipation.
Yeah.
I can't see much about the viewers. I can't see anything really.
Yeah.
I think maybe only she can because she's the host.
Probably.
I wish I could turn it off. I don't want to see either. Okay, so yeah, I'll set the timer for 5 minutes. And someone said I'm here. Hey, Jenny.
Hey.
So I'll set the timer, for 5 minutes, and once that is up, we will get started. We're just going to allow people some time to join in.
Hey.
Oh, somebody pulled it up on their phone.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was.
Like,
I probably should have had some like background music or something like that, but
you can play it on your phone.
I know. Let me see. I should play something that's like
Something nice. Yeah, don't be Rachita.
I would say it's always appropriate, but
Who is?
I like Beyonce, but Chloe and Haley, right, their song is more. I think there is some more appropriate. Let's see. So yeah, we got 3 more minutes. I'm trying to find a song to at least play. We could at least do one song. I have no song requests, right? No. Nobody turn up. Okay.
I like. Did you guys listen to Drake's new album?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are those songs appropriate?
I didn't know. I wouldn't have I would have went with that too, Caitlin. I didn't know.
I mean, Race My Mind. That's a nice one. That's not inappropriate.
Nyla just said, "Hey, Nyla."
Hey.
You guys can see the comments too, right?
Yeah. Hi, Nyla.
I can't.
Where? Oh.
Well, so meaning you're on your phone. So
Okay, no, I can see it in the comments, the section.
I was gonna say you'll be able to be then.
Okay.
Since you're on your phone, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Hey Gemma, how are you? Okay, so I can see the comments from Facebook too. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says both.
This is really nice.
Yeah, I like this program.
Right. Me too. Me too. At first, it wasn't going to allow me to like record it, but I had to like sign up to their subscription, and then it allowed me to record. So I'll give people like 2 more minutes to join in, and then other than that, we're just going to start, and then everyone else will just join in following that, and we'll just get started. Some people work tomorrow morning, so maybe up all night.
Yeah, because it's 8 o'clock out there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, what time is it your time? Like
5.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, super early.
Okay, so we have like 1 more minute. Let me see my timer. Yeah. I'm like 1 more minute. It's 8:04. But some more people come in. I mean, right now it just says 10. We're just like at the 10, and I'm pretty sure as time goes on, more people will join. Okay, we got some more people coming in. Hey, everyone that's coming in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are going to get started in about a minute. We just wanted to give time for people to join. So we're going to start at about 8:05. We just wanted to allow some people to get in and get set up. All right, so it's 8:05. Okay, everyone. We're going to get started. So my name is Zanera. Welcome everybody to the Blood, Sweat, and Heels Nurse Panel. Basically, to start off, I'm going to tell you guys the purpose of today's panel and just introduce you guys to the guests right here on the panel. So the reason behind this is that I wanted to have a virtual panel to allow anyone interested in nursing or current nurses platform to be able to have some Q&A with some millennial nurses, which I think us four all represent some millennial nurses, all in different specialties as well as with different levels of experience. So I thought that us all coming together would be a good time. I'm going to have some good discussion, speak about some hot topics, as well as give you guys some time to access any questions about either our specialties. Sorry, that was a timer. To access about our specialties or our experience or anything as far as like new grad orientation, or about travel nursing, shock trauma, NICU, or anything like that. So I just wanted to give a space and some time for everyone to get a chance to ask some questions and hear about some hot topics discussions. So basically how the agenda will go is you'll get to meet us four individually. Then I have some questions for each of my panel guests, and then we're going to speak about some hot topics going around in the nursing field right now. They are juicy. And then after that, I'm going to give everyone some time for some Q&A. So in the comment box on the right-hand side, well, I don't know where it's at for you guys, but on the comment box, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, you're able to send a comment and we'll all be able to see the question. And you're going to be able to ask your questions during that time period, and then we'll just conclude for the night. So to start off, again, I just wanted to introduce everyone or have everyone introduce themselves. I'll start off with myself. I already told you guys my name is Zanera. I am a new graduate working in a cardiac ICU in a pediatric hospital. I graduated in May of 2020 from Coppin State University with my BS in RN. And yeah, I'm just here to answer anybody's new graduate questions or current student nurse questions or anyone that's interested in getting into nursing. I'm here to answer all of your questions. Next, I'll let Mina, Ashley, and Kaylin introduce themselves.
Who wants to go first?
Mina?
Hi, everyone. My name is Amina. I go by Mina. I've been a nurse for going on 7 years now, almost 7. I'm currently a critical care coordinator, a travel nurse, and I cannot wait to answer all of you guys' questions.
I guess it's my turn. My name is Ashley. I also graduated from Coppin State University back in 2016. I've been a nurse for about 5 years now. I work at shock trauma in the inner city of Baltimore. I recently graduated from NP school from George Washington University in DC. So I'm here to answer any questions regarding nursing school, and I can definitely help with anyone who's interested in transitioning into the nurse practitioner role.
Okay, my name is Kaylin. I also graduated from Coppin State University in May 2017, so I've been a nurse for about 4 years now. I started off as a new grad in the neonatal ICU, a level 3 NICU, and then in December 2020, I started in a med spa.
Great. So I think Mina might have forgotten to tell everyone where she graduated from. And
Sorry. I went to Howard, the real
I thought people that went to Howard was like extra proud, extra HU, you know.
Right, the real HU.
HU. Mina's like, I just got off work. Look, okay. Pulling it together. Okay, so next I did draft up some questions to ask the 3 panelists here. Basically, I'm going to go through some questions, and then following that, we're going to have an open discussion about some hot topics going on in nursing right now. And then you guys will be able to ask your questions. During this time when I'm asking them questions, also guys in the audience, please be as interactive as you can. Encourage us or write little comments if you agree or if something was funny, say LOL. Just be as interactive as you can to try to, like, you know, give us a little pat on the back and make it a little bit more comfortable space for us all. This is our first time doing this. So again, please bear with us all. So again, I'll start with Mina. So I have a few questions to ask her. So again, Mina is our critical care travel nurse. Prior to that, she was in other specialties within the floor, but now she's currently travel nursing. So my first question for Mina is, what made you choose travel nursing?
Okay, so in my personal life, I love to travel, and I've always wanted to incorporate both, nursing and traveling. And once I figured out that you can do critical care coordination as a travel nurse, I knew that that's what I wanted to do immediately. I love being able to get up and go. My obligations are minimal, so I was able to be flexible enough to do travel nursing. The first opportunity I had, I ran with it. So the answer to your question is I wanted to combine, my leisurely traveling with career, and it just works so well, and it's extremely flexible, and I love it.
Yeah, no, that's good. I love traveling. I consider travel nursing. I don't know if when it will happen, but again, that's another topic for another day. But I do know there is a lot of bedside nurses going towards the travel route. We'll get into some of those topics later during the hot topics discussion. But for right now, my next question is, do you think that travel nursing is for everyone or for every nurse?
Okay, so I would love everyone to do travel nursing because I know how I feel when I do it, but I think it just depends on kind of where you are in your life. Like with me, again, my obligations are very minimal. I don't have a spouse or children. I was able to get out of my job very easily, move out of my apartment. So it just depends on where you are and if you're kind of able to, be flexible enough to do travel nursing. So if you're able to do it and you have, 13 weeks on your hands to kind of try something new, I would say go for it.
Right. No, I definitely agree. Which leads me to my next question, because again, I have heard plenty of times that travel nursing is good for the younger nurses or for nurses that haven't started like families or anything like that. Do you think that it's good for nurses that are already moms or dads or parents?
So before I got into it, my first assignment, I was like, I don't know how anybody with a family, would be able to kind of just get up and go, leave their children and their, their already formed, lives where they're from. Until I met a travel nurse who's been traveling for a very long time. She has a full family, she's married, she has her children. I asked her, I said, how do you do travel nursing? Do you miss your babies? Like, how do you do it? She said her husband was very supportive. He's able to go back, home whenever she wants to. Her house is paid off with travel nursing money. Her cars are paid off. So, it's lucrative. It's reasonable. She enjoys it. Her family understands. So I feel like if it works for you and it makes sense, then go for it. So before I used to be like, I don't know how anybody with a family, could just get up and go. But people make it happen. So I've seen it. So people can do it. If you have a family, you have children, you can do it. If you can work it out, go for it.
Right. And I feel like there's definitely other professions that have a lot of traveling. I mean, everyone like puts this light on just travel nurses as the only people that travel for work. There's plenty other professions that have like frequent traveling, like pilots. There are people in the Army or Navy or military. Just other businesses requires like obviously the entertainment industry, they all have to travel. So I think it's definitely doable. Again, it just all determines the person and the family, like what type of support system they have. So my next question is, when creating your schedule, because we know with regular bedside, all of these politics are into it and requirements and everything like that, as far as weekend requirements and holiday requirements and everything like that. So do you get to create your own schedule, or does management at whatever institution you're at create the schedule for you?
Yes and no. So when I signed my contract, I made sure that I wasn't working any weekends. I'm not really interested in overtime, and I don't want to work holidays. So that part, I made sure before I sign on the dotted line, I'm not doing any of that. So for the most part, and then before you sign your contract, you can kind of work, your little rules into it. But I work 5 days a week, and that's kind of what it is. I don't have to work, weekends or do overtime or come in on this day or whatever. So. I'm sure it varies from hospital to hospital or, based on your assignment or even your agency period. I'm sure it varies. But me personally, I knew that I wanted to work 5 days a week, but I did not want to work weekends, holidays, or any of that extra. And I don't need no overtime. I'm okay. So you just have to figure out, what works best. But
you do 12 hours or 8 hours doing 5 days?
8 hours. So,
okay, 5 8-hour shifts a week. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And it's, and it goes by so quick because we're pretty busy.
Yeah.
So I feel like
I do 8 hours now, and it goes by so fast.
Yeah, it's very different. So yeah.
Okay, you about to make me want to travel nurse, girl. Okay,
she's telling me.
I'm ready to go for my 2 no holidays. Like what?
Right.
Okay, look. So basically, you're able to like negotiate with your contracts is basically, I think, what you're.
Yeah, and even after your contract is done, like I made a promise to myself this summer, like I wasn't going to work this summer, so I took 3 months off, and in the winter I'm not going to work the winter. So you can decide how you want to your schedule, even on your break. So completely up to you. We have a lot of flexibility, so up to you.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So like with the contracts, like obviously, like we always hear like the good about travel nursing and like why everyone should do it, like the money, the stipends, everything like that. But again, it's a contractual agreement. So like, what are some things that travelers may get their contracts canceled for?
Oh, that's a good question. I think for the same reason that you would as a regular floor nurse or a staff nurse, being late, not being responsive as far as if you communicate through emails or you have something that you need to report back to your boss, just normal things that you would get penalized for as a floor nurse, you probably would get canceled for as a travel nurse. It's all the same. Of course, not putting your patient first. We know just all the things that that you couldn't do as a floor nurse. You have to provide quality care. If they feel like you're slacking, then you can get your contract canceled just as easily as you would as a floor nurse. Absolutely.
Right, definitely. And I've spoken to another travel nurse at my job, and she said that one time she's gotten her, I don't know if this has happened to you or if you've heard anything like that, but she got her contract was canceled. I don't know if it was like due to like budget cuts or something like that. Like sometimes they'll get there. So like that can possibly happen too.
Yeah.
Always guaranteed the 13 weeks.
Yeah. And, and that's new to me too. I found that out, on my second contract that things like that can happen. I thought, once you sign on the dotted line, your contract is pretty much guaranteed, but some things can change. They can be like, okay, well, we've reached our max budget, which is awful for, the travel nurse, but you'll find another assignment. But in that moment, it's terrible. But yeah, things like that, you can, they happen all the time. So you just kind of almost have to be prepared for them. But it hasn't happened to me yet. And it's rare, it's a rare occasion that they'll cancel you in the middle of your contract. But it can happen.
Right. I hope that doesn't ever happen to you.
Yeah.
That's like, what?
Yeah.
Somewhere for like 13 weeks and like just setting up housing and all of this, like then to have your contract canceled after however long. It's just,
it's a lot. It could be a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. When you get canceled, like say like you're overstaffed and your census is low, can a travel nurse get canceled?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not sure.
But you've never been canceled before.
No, I haven't been canceled before. They've never told me that they didn't need me anymore. I extended my last one. Sometimes they'll, my second week, they were like, "Are you gonna stay?" I'm like, "It's only been week 2." So what they usually was actually, if you want to extend it, they usually won't cancel you. It's rare that they'll cancel you unless you're just a terrible, something terrible happened or, you're just not on your top of your stuff. But most times what usually happens, they'll ask you to, stay longer.
But I mean, like for the actually, like they're not canceling your contract, but like staff nurses can get canceled or like per diem nurses can get canceled if you're overstaffing and your census is low. So just for you for like that shift and hey, we're overstaffed, we don't need you today.
Yeah, I think travel nurses are the first to get canceled.
You mean per shift?
Yeah.
Per shift.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you meant your entire contract.
No, per shift.
Yeah. So that can happen. Same thing as a regular floor nurse.
Yeah.
It's in your contract. If they cancel, here's what you do. But yeah, it does happen. It'll take Yeah. Sorry, I thought you meant that's the whole contract.
Okay, so yeah, I'm pretty sure like anybody that's a nurse or just even not a nurse, that everyone's seeing these crazy, outrageous like weekly stipends during COVID, after COVID, and before COVID. They're huge. Some I'm seeing for like up to $10,000 like for a week. So do these stipends include your housing, or is your housing like separate? Like, is it the 10,000 plus will pay for your housing, or is that 10,000, or whatever the lump that they offer, is that including the housing fees?
So when you Google an agency, or you want to look up a contract or assignment, you'll see a big, large lump sum and amount, and that amount usually contains, your pay rate, your stipend for your housing, your food, and whatever miscellaneous, things. So that's all. And so the rate that you're seeing is not the rate plus whatever. The rate includes everything, and they kind of break it down, of course, based on the amount, and things like that. So yeah, the amount that you see is the whole entire package.
Right. Okay. No, that's good to know, because I definitely, like, when I was seeing like all of these large amounts, I was like, wait, and then they also pay for your housing too? Like, hold on, wait, that is a crazy amount of money.
It's all
oh my goodness, like what? So
there is a question that someone asked in regards to salary too in the comments. They said, how was your travel salary before COVID compared to now?
So we're gonna save. I'm gonna go through all of the questions. Yeah, we're gonna go through all the questions at the during the Q&A. So they can still, everyone, you guys can all drop your questions over in the comments, but we're just gonna save that for like the Q&A time. But definitely populate your questions in now. But we're gonna have some Q&A time for you guys to ask like everyone individually their questions as well. And so I'll make sure that this. She says she's a new grad that works in so I'll make sure that your question does get addressed as well. So we will not forget about your question. I'm definitely going to run through all the questions, make sure everyone's is answered before we log off. I just want, of course, everything to run smooth and us to stay on track with everything. So we are able to run smooth, that we stay on the agenda. So my next question, again, I had some experience in the ER, and we will have travelers come in there. And as far as like acuity, I've heard like from floor nursing that travelers, is it true or is it false that travelers get a higher acuity or more severe?
Yeah. I can speak for myself. I can speak for all my travel friends. We can say it's true for the most part. You will come in, you'll get your day of orientation, and then the following day you'll have, this caseload that they expect you to, be able to manage, because you're coming in, travel nurse, and you're trying to help. So they expect you to do it. I mean, it's manageable, but it's more than what you would, get as a floor nurse, because you are coming in on a crisis assignment. But for me, as my role as critical care coordinator, I thought I was only going to be in the ICU, and I found out to be not true. I've been all over. They had me in the ER the other day. I had the ER pager blowing, ringing off the hook. So they can put you anywhere. They expect you to be, the ultimate nurse, a skilled nurse, and be able to kind of, mix in wherever wherever they place you at. So,
right.
Yeah,
that is. It's crazy though, because in the ER, they actually didn't get the higher acuities because they were travelers. But I heard, like, again, on the floor that they get the more severe, like you're basically going to work for the money. But in the ER, so if you're thinking about travel nursing, maybe you should go to the ER, because I heard there that we don't give you the more severe patients due to you being a travel nurse. So then my last question is, as we can see in her credentials, she is a NP student. So I wanted to kind of ask a question about that. Is your school currently online or in person? And is it hard balancing school, travel nursing, and maintaining a social life? Because we all need to do that.
So right now my school is online. So when I did my first travel nursing assignment, I was still in school, and I was like, okay, I got it. I can do it. I'm going to go to work. I'm going to come back to my Airbnb, and I'm going to, get all my assignments done. And it worked up until it didn't. I found I had to take a break because I couldn't do, everything. I couldn't focus on school and enjoy, you know, the full experience of my first nursing assignment. So I did take a little break, a 2-month break, but I will be getting back into it. But that's not to discourage anyone. People, nurses do it all this. They travel nurse and they do, you know, NP school at the same time. So it's not impossible. But for me, I just wanted to enjoy, you know, my first assignment and see, you know, what it was about without having to be stressed out about, you know, a paper 30 minutes after I get off work. So it just depends.
Yeah, and I mean a balance, like that's what works for you. Everyone is different, like, you know, it's a balance. So and that's all that matters.
You know, you have to balance the best way you can. And I was still traveling like leisurely, you know, and enjoying, you know, my travel nurse money. So it's a little break, but I will be getting back into it. So no worries there.
Right. Okay, so that's all the questions I have right now for Mina. I do see that some people do have questions for her. I don't know. So you guys think I should save those just for the Q&A in general, or should I address them?
I just had said it because I was like, oh, they're talking about what she was just speaking on. But yeah, just go ahead and save them so we can just stay on track. That makes sense.
Right. Okay. Awesome. So next, I have some questions for Ashley, guys. Ashley is, again, our family nurse practitioner who's currently working in shock trauma. She just recently graduated, so congrats to her.
Thank you, guys.
Yes. So I do have some questions for her. And again, any other questions that you guys have, just don't forget to pop them in the comments below, on the side or wherever they are for you guys. Just pop them in the comments and then we'll address them all during the Q&A time we have set aside. So again, my first question for Ashley is, can you explain a typical day in shock trauma? Like basically what is your nurse to patient ratios and like what kind of things are you seeing in shock trauma?
Right. So I want to kind of first address the biggest misconception about shock trauma. I think a lot of people hear that you're a shock trauma nurse and they think that you are constantly seeing patients just brought in by the ambulance or flown in by the HVAC, and they just think that everyone is coding or going straight to the OR or, you know what I mean, blood everywhere. It's not like that. Now, there is a unit that is like that, and that is called the TRU. However, the Shock Trauma Center is a very large building, six floors, and each floor has multiple units. Now, I personally work on the acute care unit. So I will get patients that come directly from the unit that I just described, which we call the TRU. After they're stabilized, a lot of our patients will come directly from the OR and we'll monitor them post-op. But a bulk of, I guess, the patient population is any way you can possibly injure yourself. A majority of gunshot wound patients, stab wounds, a lot of motor vehicle accidents, motorcycle accidents, dirt bike accidents. And that's pretty much the big bulk. A lot of times you'll get like the rare occurrences like plane crashes I had recently, ATV accidents, boating accidents. But basically any way that you can injure yourself, you're probably going to end up in shock trauma.
Oh, okay, wow. And then like, what are your nurse to patient ratios?
So on my unit, we can only get up to 4 patients. I think that we have the highest probably nurse to patient ratio within the trauma center because we are an acute care unit. The other units like the IMC, the ICU, a lot of times they can only go up to 1 to 3 maybe. And then in the TRU, they can have up to 4, but a lot of times it kind of fluctuates, kind of similar to an ED.
Right. Okay. Did you start this position as a new grad or did you come in with experience?
Yes. So I started as a new grad. I interviewed with them. They gave me my first offer before I even graduated from Coppin State University, and they were very accepting to new graduates. They still are. So I've had a good experience with them, and I think that's why I've stayed for so long.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's good. So, because a lot of people, again, like you said, when they hear shock trauma, like I know when I was going to school in Baltimore, like if you wanted to work anywhere, you wanted to work in shock trauma.
Yeah.
That's just what it is. So I'm pretty sure they're very competitive. So how was their interview process? Like, was it very intense? Did you have like rounds of interviews or?
So it actually, so back then I would say, yes, I felt like it was intense. But looking back on it, now that I've interviewed for like nurse practitioner positions, that RN position interview was a piece of cake. you know, it's mostly like HR, you meet with the manager, they tell you about the job, you do a shadow, you basically see if they like you and see if you like the unit type of thing. And when I interviewed about a little bit over 5 years ago, I was like 8 months pregnant. So I was wearing like extra large scrubs. I'm like, they're not going to hire me if they know I'm pregnant. So I was trying to hide my belly. Mm-hmm. They offered me the job. They were nice. I loved the unit. They ended up offering me the job, I want to say maybe like 2 weeks later. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was like a vigorous process or, you know, daunting, or I felt like I was being grilled. It was more like a conversation, but I think that is also dependent on who you're interviewing with.
Right. Okay. Do you think shock trauma is for everyone?
I do not, but I will say it is what you make it. I think that I've worked with a lot of different types of people, and everyone has their own nursing style. And I don't think that you have to be a particular type of nurse in order to survive. But I do think that you have to have tough skin, just because you are seeing a different type of patient population, and you are in the inner city. And you are dealing with different acuity of patients, and your day can go one way, and then the next day your day could go another way. And if you can't handle like that environment or that stress, then, you know, you might not flourish the way you are expecting to.
Right. So of course, like, again, it's shock trauma. So like you said, you're seeing stab wounds, gunshot wounds, fatal car accidents, and everything like that. So it's definitely an extremely like stressful work environment. So how do you cope with such a stressful work environment, like your day-to-day coping, or how do you, you know?
Yeah. I think I don't let work stress me out. Like, if anyone who knows me personally, I don't really go home and like unload my day of work. I kind of like leave it at the door. But the environment, I would say, is definitely high stress. I think I am fortunate enough to have worked on a unit that is very, like, the camaraderie is good. Me and my coworkers, we go out together. We've traveled out of the country together. So I think having like those close-knit relationships makes that environment more tolerable. Even if the shift is chaotic, they make it less crazy.
Right. Awesome. And then, of course, I'm pretty sure COVID last year affected all of our units, like individually. But how did COVID affect your unit? Or like, did you see like a lot of COVID? Like, were you getting a lot of COVID?
Yeah. So I think initially the whole entire like hospital was in a frenzy of like, okay, what are we going to do? 1 minute it was like, okay, we've gotten a couple of COVID patients. And then the next minute they were throwing up walls and creating a whole new unit and dispatching nurses to that unit. And at first they took volunteers, and then afterwards they kind of closed our unit down. Like, they closed our entire acute care, did not exist. And they dispatched all of the nurses to where they needed them. That lasted maybe a few weeks. But towards the end, it was basically like, okay, well, we need you for this specific COVID unit. Do you want to volunteer or do you not? And, you know, the nurses that wanted to work specifically on that unit, they did. And then the nurses that wanted to continue to work on the acute care unit stayed. I personally stayed on my unit just because COVID was so new. There was a lot of shortage on PPE equipment. I was worried about bringing things home to my daughter. We just didn't know enough. And honestly, I was one of those people that was scared. So I did not immediately volunteer.
Right. No, you know, I mean, that's big of you to even say. I mean, again, we're all healthcare professionals, and everyone expects like us to not be fearful or anything. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think no one went into COVID not afraid of it or anything.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's more so like personal choices, and no one should be judged from like being afraid or having a fear of it, or, you know, like you said, you had other things to consider, like your child and everything like that. So, yeah. Again, so back to like your NP school, you recently graduated. So it seems as if you were working while also in NP school. Were you working full time while you were in there?
Yes, I was full-time, overtime shift here and there. Like I had to do it. Work did not stop.
Oh my goodness. I could barely complete undergrad with working 1 day a week.
Well, undergrad is different. I tell people all the time, like, I will never do nursing school. MP school, I can do that 3 times over again, but nursing school at Coppin State University, I can't do that again. Yeah. I can't. But I mean, it was doable. I think it was mainly doable because I had such a big support system. Mm-hmm. So it worked out. And then I think a lot of kind of discipline. I love being social. I love hanging out with my friends. I love hanging out with my family. So saying no sometimes got me, but I think I had a very good work, school, life balance. I don't know how. I think I was very sleep deprived. I was willing to let that go, but everything else, I was like, no, I think I can juggle it, and I made it work.
Right. Oh, okay. Well, hopefully one day I can go back and decide.
You can do it.
Go back and all of that, but right now, I don't think I can make that commitment yet. I don't know. I'd be so like back and forth with the decision. It's definitely a huge commitment. I can only
it definitely is
work full time while doing it. So that definitely encourages me more, because that was one of like my hesitancies. I'm like, look, I need to work full time. Like I just graduated. It's time to get to this bag. Okay.
I promise you it's doable.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to commit myself back to school, but again, you said that it's doable. So that definitely encourages me. So again, you're currently in shock trauma. You just recently graduated. Do you plan on staying in shock trauma as a nurse practitioner, or what are your interests, or do you have other interests?
No, I don't plan on staying in shock trauma. I feel like a big reason why I chose to go back to MP school, because I really wanted to get kind of out of the hospital altogether, and kind of be out in community outpatient. I recently accepted a job. I'll be working in a vascular specialty. I haven't started just yet, but I do plan on staying PRN at shock trauma, just because, you know, the money's there, my coworkers are there, and I feel like I've built relationships, so I'm not ready to let them go yet. But yeah, shock trauma, I think my time there is coming to a close.
I mean, you've been there since you were a new grad, so I mean,
I know I'm ready. Like I'm ready to go.
For me, like I'm definitely that person. Like when I'm in a job, I'm in it for like years, and then when it's time to leave, I'm like, you know what? I was a pharmacy tech in school, so like when I had to leave them, I like almost cried. No,
I know it's gonna be hard, so I think that's why I'm like, hold on just a little bit, but I'm excited to see what this next job is gonna look like for me.
Congratulations!
Yes,
thank you.
Yes. And then lastly, so you did mention that you are a mother. So during your time in MP school, what's your advice for mothers right now interested in furthering their career, either if they want to go to get their undergrad degree or any degree, whether it's nursing or just strictly for MP school, or, you know, just advancing their education? What advice would you give a mother right now?
I think my biggest advice for a student who's a mom is that you have to take that step when you're 100% ready. And I think that a lot of times people think that they can do it, and they go in with okay, well, we'll see if I can. And you got to go into it with a mindset of, I'm going to do this for my kids. And I think that if you have the mindset, it can be done. But I personally believe that it's going to be really hard unless you have a good support system. Right. Like me, I depended a lot on my family, and I probably wouldn't have been able to do it without them, just because I did have to work full time, and I did have to go to my, my internships, or my preceptors needed me there in the morning, and then I would have to be at the hospital to work at night. And what does a mom do? You know what I mean? So it's just like you got to have some type of support system, and just to remember that it's temporary and a big sacrifice, but it will be worth it.
Right, definitely. Well, thank you. It looks like some questions are populated for Ashley as well. Again, we will address all of those questions during our Q&A. that we have like section off just for that Q&A time. So again, everyone that's watching or joining, don't forget to put your questions in the comments, and then we will address those during the Q&A time period. So next we have Miss Kaylin. She is our NICU. Yes. Just have some questions for her about like the NICU and med spa. And again, any questions you guys have for Mina or Ashley or Kaylin or myself, just again, don't forget to put those in the comments, and we will address those during our Q&A time. So my first question for Kaylin is, describe a normal day on your unit, as far as, again, like I asked Ashley, like what is your nurse to patient ratios? How is the pace? Because I know there are a lot of females that are interested in NICU. So, just basically give them an idea of.
You said how is the what?
The pace.
Oh, the pace. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Like how's the pace, your nurse to patient ratio, and like, yeah.
So, like being in the NICU, it's not all just preterm babies. A baby can come out term, which means that they completed, all their time inside of the womb, and come out term and still have problems, whether it be like respiratory problems or glucose problems, like babies that are born to moms with gestational diabetes or regular diabetes before pregnancy. So I work in a level 3 NICU, and we don't do surgery or anything like that. So there's so many levels to NICU. Like you can be in a level 2 NICU, which is, it just depends. Like sometimes they will only take 34 weeks and above. In a level 3 NICU, most of them are going to take all up until, depending on the hospital, like they'll resuscitate at either 23 weeks or 24 weeks gestation. It just depends. So yeah, so working in a level 3 NICU, you can have all preterm babies, sick term kids. So in California, like if you're working with what we consider a well baby, which means just a normal kid that's just out with the mom, you can have up to 4. If it's like a grower feeder, which means that it's a preterm baby who's just like working on eating and stuff, you can have 3 of them. If it's like an intubated baby, then you're going to be 1-to-1 most likely. If the baby's on like CPAP, most likely you'll have 2. So in California, it's definitely different ratios than when I was working in Texas. The ratios were crazy. The acuity was crazy with it. Like I had a 28 weeker on CPAP, dropping oxygen, had another baby in another room down the hall that was on high flow, had another baby down the hall that was feeding. And it was just, and after that, I actually quit. I just couldn't do it. I'm like, this is so unsafe. So yeah. So like the pace, I feel like the NICU is like, if you have like a grower feeder and the baby just really like working on feeding or just like CPAP and stuff, the pace is pretty chill. You're just basically doing your touch times where you're like changing the diaper, doing your feedings and stuff about every 3 hours. So in between, you're really kind of just sitting at the bedside and just kind of monitoring your baby, making sure that they don't desat and things like that.
Okay. So would you say it's more of like medium paced, fast paced, or like slower paced?
It can be all the above.
Oh, okay.
With NICU, like
your day.
Some days, you may have a chill day where like you never know when women are going to go into labor.
Right.
Every day is completely different. So you can have a day where you have 5 deliveries and 3 of them are coming to the NICU. So you're having a whole bunch of admissions back to back. So it really just depends. Right. So it can be high pace, and then sometimes it can be low pace, and I feel like preterm babies, and mostly preterm babies, it comes in waves. And like you can go 2 months and our census is so low. There's like no preterm kids coming, which are like based on acuity. Your long-term acuity is based on babies coming early, because those are the babies that are going to be in the NICU the longest. So that's how you keep up, your census. So yeah, it's always up and down.
Right. So on your unit, because again, like I had no idea of like what was like priorities in NICUs or anything like that. So just so we all know, what are like your major patient concerns? Like what concerns do you guys have for like?
So like if a baby is preterm, your main concern is going to be like respiratory. We don't deal with like cardiac issues. If they have cardiac issues, then we ship them out. But respiratory issues, so baby that's like intubated or on CPAP or high flow nasal cannula. A lot of babies have sugar issues, so they'll need like an IV and they'll need D10. Sometimes they may need higher D10, just depending on their glucose levels. And then feeding. A lot of preterm babies, they have feeding issues, so you'll need a NG tube, which goes down into the stomach, and you feed them that way.
Right. Okay. What about neck?
So if we suspect that baby has neck, we ship out.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah, we don't, because they're gonna have to go to immediate surgery, so we don't do surgery.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So yeah.
And then also, so again, I know when I was graduating, like everyone I spoke to, like they all wanted to be like NICU nurse, NICU nurse, NICU nurse. So again, we know that NICU nursing is very competitive to join into, especially as a new grad. What advice do you have for anybody that's interested in joining the NICU?
Yeah, so like when I first in nursing school, I always knew that I never wanted to work with adults. No offense, I just can't do adults. I don't like people talking to me. I like my quiet babies. They mind their business and cry, and you just deal with them. But so I always knew I wanted to do NICU. And actually, when I first graduated and I moved back home to California, my mom was like, "You need a job. You need to go apply anywhere." So I actually applied to like some burn unit, and I got in there in the interview, and they're like, "Oh, where do you see yourself?" And I'm like, in 5 years, or in work, I see myself in the NICU. And then my mom, she was actually really pissed about that, because she's like, "Why would you go in there telling them that you see yourself in the NICU?" I'm like, I'm just being honest. Like, this is what I want to do. I'm not going to sit here and be miserable, in a adult burn unit where I don't want to be. And then probably like a week after that, I got an interview for the NICU that I started off at. So I'd say that if what specialty you want to do, I would put your mind on that and continue to apply and apply and apply to those positions, and something will come through. You don't want to be miserable, on a unit that you don't want to be on.
Right. No, I definitely agree with that. I made a whole YouTube about that. Like, definitely do not want to be miserable. Like, our jobs are already stressful enough. Nobody wants to be miserable. So if it's a specialty that you are like highly interested in, and you are able to be patient and wait it out as long as you can.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, of course, like 6 months, you're like, damn, okay, I don't have a job yet. Like, okay, maybe, you just have to make that temporary sacrifice, but just keep applying and find hospitals within, that maybe 30 minutes away, and just do a little commute in the meantime, and to get your experience.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're also a med spa nurse. So how do you balance like bedside and med spa nursing? Like, those are two definitely.
So with the med spa that I was at, I wasn't there too often. It was just 2 times throughout the month. So it was pretty easy to balance with my NICU job. But I feel like a lot of med spa places, they aren't really like full time. It's a lot of like part time. Yeah, I just was working there 2 times out the month, and just find your days and you make it work.
Right. Do you prefer med spa or bedside?
The money is better with bedside. That's just what it is. Med spa, I feel like it's definitely more chill and not as like, what's the word? I guess you're working with people that are like paying for their stuff, and I don't know how to really explain it, but it's definitely, I feel like it's more chill. You don't have like management and, charge nurses and people like on your neck all day, and like you're doing something that's fun.
Right.
So like you can tailor, it's just fun, and it's just not as like stressful.
Right. Yeah. Because you're not like doing like Q4.
Yeah.
Assessments, Q2 vitals.
Yeah.
Q everything.
Worrying about your baby tanking and stuff. Like, of course you have to worry about if people get like an infection, but as long as you, taking your precautions and stuff, and yeah.
Right.
So.
Okay. So if you could go back to your senior year of high school, would you still choose nursing as your career? If not, what would you choose?
I mean, I feel like being a nurse, you have those days where you be like, dang, I don't want to be a nurse anymore. Like you have those days where you be like, oh, I just want to find another career. But overall, I do love nursing, and I've always wanted to be a nurse since I was like in middle school. So I don't know what else I would even want to be. I've never even really thought about what else I would want to be because I never could see myself being anything else but a nurse. It definitely has its cons, definitely has a lot of cons, but I mean, just seeing your patients and being in the NICU, when you see your babies grow and you see how appreciative parents are with you taking care of their babies, like it puts a smile and it makes you grateful.
No, I definitely agree. Like some days I'm like, look, I'm on Twitter, like scrolling. It's people like in cybersecurity and all these different
I see, like,
I'm like, did I choose that? It's like, I'm kidding. I'm definitely in my purpose. Okay, so I think that is all the questions I have for you. I did populate some questions for myself, but we can get to those later. Because as I look at the time, we've now been on here for like almost an hour. We're like hitting the 50-minute mark. So I don't know. Do you guys think it's time for hot topics, or should I ask the questions I like populated for myself?
Yeah, I think the people want to know a little bit about Zanera.
Yeah.
I just want to skip me, you know?
Right. You're not out the hot seat.
I mean, I only did like 3 questions. I mean, again, like anybody else who has questions on here, you guys populate those in the comments and I'll address those as well. So I tried to, it was kind of hard thinking of questions to ask yourself, but I populated 3 of my own to kind of reach out to anyone that's a new grad or currently like a senior in nursing school. So for myself, I have how was my new graduate orientation, because that is a big hurdle for all new grads to get through. So I went through 2 orientations actually. The first one obviously wasn't good. That's why I went through another. My first one, it was a little unorganized. I don't think I had a preceptor that was a good fit for that title or like that position to be in that role of precepting someone. Again, this is my first one. And again, it was just very unorganized and lackluster. Like it wasn't what I was expecting. I was a new graduate nurse, but I wasn't naive to the hospital environment because I was a student nurse for a year in the emergency department. So again, that's why I knew that and made the decision that I did to, you know, continue on somewhere else. And I transitioned out of that job and institution, went somewhere else. But my second orientation, guys, was phenomenal. It was great. It's my current job right now. It was the best orientation. You definitely can tell the difference. And I was treated very well and they were on me for sure, but it was needed. So it wasn't like my first time where I said like I was having like a bad preceptor and things like that. That was just more so like trying to be a nurse bully versus like this. They were on me about getting things done with a certain time, but they also were very nurturing. So that entire experience was great. You can see that during my orientation right now, at my current job, you can tell that they care for their nurses and they are preparing you for your independent practice, for you to practice independently. So my first orientation, I did not feel like that. I felt like, what the heck? Like, where am I? My second orientation at my current job, loved it. They definitely prepared me. So again, if you have that gut feeling of where am I at? What is this job doing? They not putting me in the right position. It's go with your gut feeling and maybe explore other opportunities. So again, I currently work in a cardiac ICU. So advice for any new grads wanting ICU positions is my next question. I populated for myself. So my best advice is make sure that you are prepared as much as you can be for that position, meaning that you have either been a student nurse or you've had clinicals in an ICU. It is a very, very difficult position to be in, depending on what ICU you go to. It's very stressful. The patient's life is honestly depending on you. Like, I'm sorry, there's no other level of nursing or level of care in a hospital after ICU nursing. It's either you're in the ICU, you're in a step down, or you're in heaven. So I think ICU nurses definitely have a lot on their plate. I mean, that's the real.
Hey, Heaven.
Is it lying?
Right.
In the ICU, you're in a step down unit or you're in heaven. So it's a lot on these nurses. So for you to come in as a new grad, I think all new grads that want to be in the ICU need to make sure that they are prepared as much as possible. So you know your material, you have been exposed to it, whether it's a clinical. I don't think anyone should come in blindsided or start in a different, role and then transition to an ICU. But that's definitely my best advice. Just make sure that you're prepared to your best ability for that position and to call yourself an ICU nurse. It sounds good. It sounds great. But when the time comes down to it, it's all about you, your integrity, your practice, and this patient's life. So my next question is, what did I say for myself? Oh, okay. What if a new grad doesn't know like what specialty they want to get into?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm like, a lot of like people that graduate from nursing, when they get into nursing, they don't know like what specialty they want to get into, if they want to be an L&D nurse, ICU, med-surg, or whatever specialty. If you are a new grad and you don't know what position you want to get into and you know that you just want to be a nurse, I suggest figuring out what pace you like, meaning like you like fast pace, medium, middle style, or like slow pace, then deciding if you like adrenaline or not. And then I also would recommend like med-surg floor, like start off there if you aren't able to determine. Med-surg floor is definitely very general. I knew med-surg wasn't for me because I like adrenaline, I like fast pace. I like actually standing up at work, which is crazy, but I definitely like standing up. I like working. Like if I'm going to be at work for 12 hours, I need to be working all 12 of the hours so that the time could go by fast. And that's what happens. I hate it. After I get off, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so tired, but I love it at the same time. So it's a love-hate relationship. So definitely I would suggest any new grad, if you are uncertain of what specialty, or just research different specialties and like hear what other people are saying. But if you're still uncertain about what to go into, start with the med-surg floor. Don't sign on to any contract that's going to require you to stay there for a certain period of time as a new grad. Don't do that. But start with the med-surg floor, hear from other nurses, and then determine if, a certain specialty is for you, and, just explore. I mean, our position, we're able to go through different units. So just figure out what's your.
So much you can do. It's endless.
Yeah, I'm like, just figure out where you want to go.
Yeah.
And even then, I know some nurses that start off as a new grad that don't even want to be in the hospital, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
If you don't want to be bedside, you don't have to be bedside. And one thing you can do is you can move anywhere you want to go, and you can always go back to bedside. Don't think because if you don't start off on bedside that you won't be able to find a job. Like nursing, they need nurses. You can find a job anywhere.
Right.
Anything in nursing. You can do anything. So yeah.
Definitely. So yeah, those are the only 3 questions I populated for myself. If anyone else has any other questions for me, populate them in the comments and we will address them during the Q&A. So next we just have some hot topics that we're going to talk about. That's right now. So the first topic that I wanted, so this is basically just an open discussion before we get into the Q&A. That might help you guys populate even more questions. So first, I wanted to talk about right now, well, before right now, even it's been a huge nursing shortage. So why do we think that there is such a huge nursing shortage since we're all nurses? Right now?
Well, I was just tweeting about this last night because everybody was like pissing me off. So I was like on a rant before I was going to work. I'm like, let me go to sleep because I got a night shift tonight. But I do honestly feel like a lot of nurses now are leaving to do travel nursing. And a lot of the issue is like, even like in school, our preceptors, our clinical instructors, they always said like, never go into nursing for money, which is absolutely true because nurses, people think that you just get paid this big guap of money, and it's really not true. But I think a lot of the times it's a lot of unsafe patient ratios, with why is there are nursing shortages. The pay can be very poor depending on the state.
Like, I think the pay is just like black and white. It's just pay. Like,
yeah, but like ratios too. Nobody wants to work in, like in those type of environments and it's just unsafe. And at the end of the day, everything relies on you and your license. So yeah, ratios. And then I forgot what else I was tweeting about. Yeah.
What do y'all think?
I definitely agree with Kaylin on the ratio, but I also think that it's just kind of like nurses are at a place where we're just so burnt out. And I think burnout was a thing before COVID, but I think COVID put everyone into overdrive. We're looking at all this money, we're looking at all these travel assignments for those that are traveling, and it's like you're thinking about the money and as far as, like, let me just pick up these shifts. Like, they need us. Let's just go ahead and do it. But you don't realize that eventually that becomes mentally and physically exhausting. And a really big issue at my hospital, a lot of the nurses are complaining, and they actually had a kind of like a administrative wide kind of discussion about it. Is the fact that staff nurses feel very underpaid and unappreciated. And we feel like some institutions across the state, wait until, shortages get so bad. And then you offer all of this money to these travel nurses to come in and, make a temporary fix for the problem instead of investing in your staff nurses.
Yeah.
So I think that that's why nurses are leaving the bedside, because why not? If I can, stand next to somebody who's making 3 times more than me, why wouldn't I go and do what she's doing at another hospital?
Mm-hmm.
So,
and then you have the responsibility as a staff nurse to take care of your unit.
Mm-hmm.
You come in as a travel nurse, they're not going to be doing what you're doing as a staff nurse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, some places like will say like, oh well, like, because I've seen Kaylin's rant yesterday and I kind of ranted a little bit with her. And then like some institutions will say like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna offer our staff nurses a bonus if you pick up an extra shift, or what I'm saying, like these crazy, bonuses, which are definitely appreciated. But at the same time, it's like, I'm already tired.
Yeah.
To pick up,
you shouldn't have to work 50 hours a week to get paid good.
Week to make this? Are you crazy? Like, my 36 hours on my feet wasn't already enough to get a little bit more? You gonna give me a pizza party? Like,
yeah.
I don't want to. I seen a meme, y'all. It had me dying. It was like, I don't want a pizza party anymore. I want a race.
No, seriously. I'm tired of pizza parties. I'm tired of donuts in the morning. I'm just
stop bringing us bagels and coffee. We want more money.
And what's crazy to me is like nurses around the United States, you're doing nursing is nursing, period.
Yeah.
So why should I be able to work in California and get paid so much more money? And then I go to Texas and I'm like, what the heck? I can barely survive out here, And when I moved to Texas, that was like the biggest shocker, I think, of my entire nursing career.
The pay, right.
That's why I left.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, definitely like pay is a huge amount. Like, yes, we make enough. Like, we're stable. Not a cardboard boxes or anything like that. But at the same time, stress on top of considering how much schooling we went through, our work environment, patient ratios, considering all of that, like the amount of skill it takes to be a nurse, I think pay has a lot to do with the nursing shortage. I don't hear a physician shortage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hear a dentist shortage. I don't hear, any of those shortages. I hear a nursing shortage. So,
but they always say that, and they never talk about the real reason why. Like, y'all just keep saying nursing shortage. No, talk about how y'all are treating nurses unfairly, how you're paying them not enough money.
Right.
You have these CEOs making, billions.
Right.
And then you're paying your nurses these little coins, like
not even going up like the ladder as far as I can see you. I just consider, like, even when I think of like doctors or anyone else, as far as the pay comparison to nurses, it's just like, I feel like doctors get paid so much because they knew it took a long time for them to become a doctor, and they're paying for their, student loans and all of this, whatever else is all considered into their pay. I don't think that's considered when it comes to nursing pay. It's not what, like, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think certain levels of education should come with certain compensation, but I think that people in these institutions forget that hospitals cannot run without nurses. Like, we're looking at the biggest named hospitals in the state that are closing their beds because there's no nurses to take care of the patients in the beds.
Right.
So it's like, if that's not a wake-up call, then I'm not really sure what it's going to be.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the pay has a lot to do with it. I agree with you. I feel like I wasn't getting, like you said, nurses get paid. We get paid. We're good. We can eat, we can do things we enjoy. But I didn't feel like I got paid my worth until I became a travel nurse. I felt like now, I can come to work and I feel like, okay, I'm getting paid what I'm worth, putting my life on the line, working on these COVID units for 8 hours a day. You know what I mean? So I think nurses are finally standing up for themselves, and that's the reason why it's a shortage now. I don't blame them at all.
Right. So to get into the next topic, there was a meme. Well, not a meme. There was a post that went out. I think over the past it was out yesterday, or I think it was 2 days ago. It went that the New York governor is now firing nurses that are not vaccinated. Basically, what is your opinion on that? So I guess I will start with that. I don't agree with it. I don't think that anyone should be required to, like, it shouldn't be a mandate, like, oh, it's your job, or, you should be fired for that.
It's a force. It's
right.
Like, get fired, and half the people cannot afford to lose their jobs at all.
Right. So I don't think that's fair. I am pro-vaccine. Again, I got vaccinated, but at the same time, if people decide not to, I don't think that they should lose their job. That's just my personal opinion. Again, all of us are going to state our personal opinions, and it should be like non-judgmental. It's just everyone is entitled to their own personal opinion. And basically, I think by New York firing nurses, it's saying that you can't have an opinion. We don't want to pay you, and you also don't have an opinion.
Mm-hmm. And I just feel like throughout the whole pandemic, like, everything has just been so rocky. Like, 1 minute we're not, in March when I was working in Texas, we weren't allowed to wear masks. They said we don't want to scare the patients. What do you mean? Like, we're in the middle of this crazy respiratory virus that is out. We're going on lockdowns, and you're telling me that I can't walk around here with a mask? Like, we literally would get in trouble. They would tell us, take your mask off. And now you're over here forcing us to get a vaccine when we made it through this whole year with re-wearing PPE, re-wearing N95 masks, putting, we just went through the craziest conditions, and nobody cared about nurses then. And now you want to force people, to get vaccines, and they may have already had COVID, or, whoever's reason and whatever their reason may be. I just think it's so crazy.
Yeah. I don't agree that people should be forced to it. Yes, there's science behind the vaccine.
I'm on the fence on the whole force part, because I don't think that I don't think healthcare is in a place where they can make nurses disposable when you're already begging or at a shortage for said nurses.
Right.
But I also think that some of the kind of like the big anti-vaxxers that work in hospitals now may be contradicting themselves just a little bit as far as the mandate on the vaccine, only because we have to get vaccinated with the flu every year. Right. But I think one part to consider is the fact that this vaccine is so new.
Right, exactly.
I understand that people want, some more like that real research out before they just inject themselves with something. Again, I got my vaccine and my hospital did make it mandatory. However, I did get it before it was made mandatory. But it's just, to me, it goes back and forth. It's just like, well, we were already mandated to get a vaccine. It's like the vaccine mandate isn't necessarily a new thing for institutions, but it's new for this COVID vaccine. And I think that this new idea of COVID and this vaccine that they kind of just came out with months later, I think that just puts people into like a fear mode. Like, I don't know what it is. Yeah.
Well, the hospitals I worked at, the flu vaccine actually wasn't mandatory. Of course, they wanted you to get it, but if you chose to not get a flu vaccine, you had to wear a mask. And this was before COVID.
Okay.
I mean, all the ones I worked at, it's been mandatory or unless you decline, like that's just been.
Yeah. I think you had to have an allergy. If not, you had to get the flu shot.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely like, again, I agree like with Ashley. I think that the vaccine, like, I don't think it should be forced, but at the same time, I mean, I think there are some people like contradicting themselves, but at the same time, I'm not going to act like when I sat down to get my vaccine, I wasn't a little like, oh, hold up.
Weird. I had a panic attack, honestly.
I'm not going to act like I wasn't a little
Yeah.
hold up. What are the side effects? Like, what's going to happen? Am I going to get my family later? Like, it's all these uncertainties, but at the same time, it's just like me personally, I trust, I trust science. So that's just what it is. And it's like everyone is entitled to their own opinion is how I feel. So I don't think people should be forced to get it or lose their jobs. What do you expect people to do? Go.
And then we're wearing masks all day as well. And the CDC has proven that wearing a mask does avoid the transmission of COVID, which they have said. But yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's a tricky topic.
It's definitely very tricky, but I think everyone's entitled to their own. So next, I was reading another post, and it was discussing nurse bullying. So I remember reading this story when I was in nursing school as well, but it basically said nurse died by suicide due to reported work bullying at work. So have you guys ever experienced nurse bullying in any of your hospitals? How did you handle it? Or how would you or what would you give to someone that's experiencing nurse bullying?
So I would Ashley.
No, you go ahead. I'm gonna think on it.
I was gonna say, I don't know if I would call it bullying, but the whole thing about how nurses eat their young or try to is a very real thing. I've had incidences where older nurses, will say certain things or certain things. I had an incident today, which hasn't happened to me in a very long time. I'm very confident as a nurse, and I feel like now, if I'm in a position where I have to speak up for myself, I will, regardless of whatever happens after that. I feel like I'm gonna say, what I need to say in whatever setting. So today happened right before lunch, where I was sitting at a computer. And I got up, went to the bathroom. All my stuff is here. My tea, my purse, my notes, my clipboard is all at this computer. My mini heater. I set up shop at this particular computer. So I came up from the bathroom. Pharmacist was sitting at the computer. I was like, oh, I was sitting right here. And she looked at me and said, okay, and kept talking. So, and I'm like, are you trying to be funny or are you going to get up? So we having this little exchange, and she didn't think that I was going to say something to her. So my whole point of saying that is stand up for yourself. Like, don't be the person that's like, oh, I don't want to. No, you need to step on toes, because people need to learn how to respect boundaries, how to respect your credentials as a nurse. She saw my badge. It doesn't even matter if I was a regular, if I was a family member, it didn't matter. You need to respect, space and boundaries and people. So that happened today, which is so funny that we're talking about it. I don't know if it's considered bullying, but she knew it's not going to happen again. It's not going to happen again. She knows now. This is my computer. And she
do not mess with Mina's computer.
Mess with my
computer. Set up shop.
And truthfully, I probably wasn't even supposed to be at the computer, but regardless,
I was there.
I set up shop. I was sitting right there. You tried to ignore me. You tried to play with me, play in my face, and we addressed it, and never on, and it's not going to happen again. So if you come in contact with a fake bully or somebody that's trying to, test you a little bit, you just kind of have to, as respectful as you can be,
be professional.
But stick up for yourself. You know, you earn your stripes just like everybody else. Regardless of that, you're a human being, you know, and nobody should be talking to you crazy, looking at you crazy. So if you come into a situation where you feel like somebody is trying to fry you, ask them if they're okay. And you address it and you move forward. But yeah, don't let anyone play with you, especially, you know, on the floor, in the hospital, wherever, because you deserve to be there just like them. So that's my little piece, my little story.
I think I'm going to agree with Mina on this one. I think, I don't know about the whole nurses eat young, because I feel like in the environment that I worked in, there wasn't too many older nurses, but I have experienced, or let me say witnessed, a lot of nurses, you know, kind of basically playing the game of, let me see what you know, or let me see how stupid I can make you feel. And with people like that, you just got to be confident in what you know. You can't stumble across your words. You can't make them feel like they're, you know what I mean, like nervous. You got to be confident in what you know, confident in what you did throughout the shift, give them report and move on. You know what I mean? I just feel like you can't harbor on it. You can't give them any power. You show your frustration. That just feeds into them making feel like you're this big, and it's not acceptable.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I didn't experience the like nurses either. I mean, well, maybe because they weren't that much older, they were like the same age as me, or honestly probably even like younger than me. But at my first like orientation, and that first nurse role I had chose, they were trying, like, there were bullies or, you know, cliques, but anybody who knows me personally knows I can't be intimidated. That's just, you know, my mom is probably laughing right now, but I just cannot be intimidated. So I think I handled it to the best. Like, I would just kept it moving, kept on with my day. And, you know, again, I stood up for myself when needed to, and I was on my stuff. You know, I knew my materials and what needed to be done, because my preceptor was trying to be like that intimidator person, but it didn't work. It honestly backfired in her, you know, because I stood up for myself professionally. So she ended up, you know, presenting an issue to management about me. So, you know, it kind of turned around to, you know, it turned into that. So again, definitely, if you are experiencing any bullying, just stand up for yourself as professionally as you can. Don't let anyone get you out of character, though. If you think that it's going to get to that, then, you know, escalate it to management or whoever you need to. And if they're not handling it, go to HR or whoever is next after that. As far as bullying goes, again, our job is already stressful enough. Like, I'm such a good person to get along with and work with. Like, I'm a team player. Like, I'm basically like, look, let's just get the day over with. Like, do you need help? Type of, like, that's how I am. Like, let's work together to get it done with. So if you are around people that don't have that type of energy, or are trying to bully you, or making your job already more stressful than what it already is, then again, escalate that to management or continue standing up for yourself. So that's my best advice. And definitely,
you're on your job for your, you know, 12 hours is a long time to be with people.
Who wants to be around bullies or people like trying to be?
Yeah, and you want to be around like a nice, close-knit family type of unit. You know, you're with each other way too long of hours to be around people who just have bad vibes and energy and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Yeah, so I think we are almost wrapping up these hot topics. So I mean, we kind of already like touched bases on this when we talked about the first topic. So my next one was, do we think nurses get paid what they deserve? I think we all collectively agreed that no. So I'll continue on to the next question, which is,
California, you get paid really good, but that's just such a small percentage.
I'm saying like broadly. Like,
yeah, I know that. So I'm just saying, like, California is a really small percentage, but when you are speaking on nursing, you want to speak on nursing as a whole. You don't want to talk about, you know, just like your small percentage that actually does get paid good. You want to speak on nursing in general. You want to support nurses across America, you know.
Right. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think they need to work on that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to have a whole bunch of travelers, and unfortunately, patients are going to be with nurses that just got oriented to the unit and don't know where things are in the stock room just yesterday. So,
Yeah.
So my next question is, again, I kind of want to have some time in here for, again, like any new grads or anyone in school right now. So basically NCLEX, that's a big topic. And again, I know I'm probably the one that's like closest to previously taking NCLEX, but just any advice for anyone that's preparing for the NCLEX right now?
I use UWorld. That's one thing I can remember.
I use UWorld, and I wish that I used it from the time I started studying to the time I took the test and looked up nothing else.
Yeah, I didn't open up a book, which they all like. A lot of nurses that I had knew previously, they said either you know the material or basically you don't. You can't go back and just learn a whole bunch of stuff in a small time frame. There's a lot of apps you can download on your phone. There's one called NCLEX Mastery that I had used. But like, yeah, Ashley was saying, like UWorld is really good. And, you know, the questions that I answered that I got wrong, I took notes on that. So really just doing a whole lot of questions. And I feel like with the NCLEX, a lot of it is like trying to, what is it called? Like when you cancel out the other, it's like
too long. You haven't been out of school too long.
I know. When you like try to break down the questions and you don't know the answer, but you're going to try to find the right one.
That's the right answer.
Yeah, that's all you really can do. Make it make sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't use what you say UWorld. I didn't use UWorld. I used Howard Paid for Hertz, and then I got the Saunders book. That was the best book ever. And then the NCLEX Mastery app saved my life. It was the best $30 I ever spent. I know single-handedly that's probably the reason why I passed my exam. It gives you the rationale, you know, lets you know the right, why you got it wrong. I use that day out until I took my boards and passed it. So if you are studying, definitely download that app because it was the thing I ever spent.
You got to do a lot of questions a day. Questions. Like
Every
don't skip any days not doing questions. Like, especially when everything is readily available on your phone. There's no excuses to not do any.
Every day.
As far as like my advice, I'm more so like anxiety prone. I had like bad test anxiety. So like I definitely agree. Questions is like your priority. Do questions. But at the same time, take it a day at a time, especially if you are a senior right now. You should not be thinking about the NCLEX. If you are a senior right now in college and nursing school, all you should be worried about is whatever your next exam is. Like, take it a day at a time. And then when you graduate, that's when you focus on the NCLEX and doing like your daily questions. Also, I know there's a big like focal point on passing the NCLEX with the least amount of questions. Look, whether you pass it with 75 questions or you pass it with 200 questions or you pass it with 300 questions or whatever, just pass it.
Yeah.
The same nurse, and honestly, for anyone that had to or has to take it multiple times, you're going to be the same nurse that you are going to be if you pass it in 75 questions or if you pass it in 200 questions. You are going to be the same nurse that you would be. They're going to pay you the same pay. Everybody walking around saying, "Oh, I passed my NCLEX with 75 questions." I mean, I got to read them out, but everybody walking around saying that, they don't get no more pay than you. Everybody's getting the same pay. Just focus on your exam. Focus on your questions. It's already enough pressure on you. Just take some time from social media.
Yeah.
You know, and focus on the NCLEX. Focus on, you know, whatever topics that you don't feel strong on. Whatever topics you try to avoid, you need to focus on those topics. And then go and take it, you know, and let that be. But don't put any more pressure on yourself because I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. You're going to get to that test. And if you get to question 76, your hand going to start sweating. You're going to start shaking. So this whole 75 questions is done. I mean, for us, it was different because of COVID. They allowed us to finish the 60, which, you know, happened. But I definitely want nurses to stop focusing so much on the least amount of questions. Yes, be grateful if you get that, but you just need to get however many you need to get right out of there and pass it. So that is my best advice on the NCLEX. Just pass it.
And really focus on yourself. Like, don't call people and worry about, like you say, the questions, and just focus on yourself, focus on your studying, and let everything else just be, I feel like if you're calling people like, oh, did you take yours? And did you do this? And did you do that? Like, it just makes it more stressful.
Right.
And take your time when you're studying too. Like as far as like the time you actually take, like month wise. I don't know how long you guys took the study, but I think maybe 4 months. I took 3-4 months. I really I really tried to take my time. Because I was a nervous wreck. I was an anxious test taker. I'm like, I need to make sure that I'm doing everything I need to do to pass my exam. So my biggest piece of advice is to take your time when you're studying.
Right.
4 months too.
Okay.
I didn't take my boards until September.
Yeah.
But part of it too was California is so slow. I wasn't even able to take it with the applications and stuff. But I'm glad that it took that long though, because it just lets you just relax. And then I enjoyed my summer. Like I traveled, like
same.
Enjoy yourself. Like you just spent all these years in nursing school dying. Like enjoy yourself when you get out.
And then they want you to turn around, prepare for this exam. Like, no, I'm tired. Like, I mean, give yourself some time.
Yeah. Which a lot of people that went to school in my nursing class, a lot of them have families too. So they're like, I really don't have time to wait. Like I didn't work in nursing school, so I need to take my NCLEX and start working. But if you do have the opportunity to just wait a month or two, wait your month or two and just take a debrief and relax.
Right. Okay, so that is all. That basically wraps up the hot topics. So next we'll get into some Q&A from the audience. It's some questions that are already populated in the comments. I'll just go through those and ask everyone, and then we'll conclude there. I'll try not to let this go for too long, so because we're already at basically an hour and a half. So let's see. I'll start from the beginning. So someone asked for Mina, what was your travel salary before COVID compared to now?
Oh, well, I started travel nursing this year, so I don't have any experience for travel nursing prior to. I probably should have started at the peak of it, but I didn't. So I started my first assignment in March, and I can tell you my salary compared to my salary as a floor nurse is definitely a lot more. It's about double what I was making as a floor nurse. So, like I said earlier, now I feel like I'm getting paid what I'm worth as a nurse. So. Yeah, salary compared to floor, staff nurse as a travel nurse is almost about double. So that's good.
Right.
Yeah.
The next question says, for me, how much does a first year nurse make? And is it better? I think as accent, is it better to work in private or a private practice or a large hospital? Which one is better to start in? So as far as nurse salaries for new grads get paid the least of any nurses, but after you're going to begin to get raises pretty frequently. So as far as salary, it varies depending on your state. So everybody just Google whichever state and you'll somewhere fall between there. But most states across the board, they pay around the same amount no matter what state you're in. Not saying each state pays the same, but like if you're in a state, no matter if you're north, south, east, or west of that state, the nurses are probably getting paid around the same.
Yeah. California, no. LA gets paid a lot less than San Francisco. So that's northern and southern. It's a pretty big difference because I have a coworker who lives in LA and he actually works more here. He flies out because it's so different.
Oh, wow. Well, there you go. Cali's different. I heard California actually has a really good union. So next, the questions for Mina. It said, did you say you are a coordinator? What does that entail?
Mm-hmm.
So my title is a critical care coordinator. It falls under case management and management. So I do admissions, initial assessments, and discharge planning, but it's not bedside nursing. So my whole purpose of my role is to make sure that I get my patients out safely. They have a safe discharge plan, whether it's home with home health, to a rehab, to a skilled nursing facility, to wherever they call home with the resources that they need, whether it's medical equipment, oxygen, or whatever they need. I just make sure I take care of all of their discharge planning. So my caseload normally, as a non-travel nurse critical care coordinator, I would have about 30 patients. That's about my normal load. But now I have multiple units. So I have most of the ICUs, the ER, the COVID, units or whatever. And I'm making sure that these patients get home safely. And I prefer that over regular bedside nursing because it's not out of hustle and bustle. It's not physically demanding. It's very flat work. I'm not going to say it's a low maintenance job. It's different from bedside nursing, but it's still nursing. It's still a lot of work. But I would definitely say I like it a whole lot better than, being at the bedside for 8 to 12 hours. So
That's amazing. That's amazing. I never knew that you did that, or like even with a coordinator, what was underneath that scope, and that you can just do that just being a registered nurse with a bachelor's.
That's it.
Wow.
I didn't know that you could travel with that.
Right. That's great.
Until March, and as soon as I learned that you could travel with it, I was like, okay, yeah, this is awesome for me to transition out of bedside, nursing, you and hospice and palliative care. I was like, let me try, the coordination role, and it worked out, and I love it, and I'm pretty autonomous. I haven't even met my boss yet, so I'm not being micromanaged. I don't even know what she looks like. So I've made my own units. The doctors call me for a round, so I don't have to go around. So it's pretty good. I have my own computer.
That's amazing.
So that was good. So yeah.
Okay, well that is good to know. Okay, let me tell you something. You might see me out on the road doing that.
It's transition. Really is. If you want to transition out of bedside nursing but still work in a hospital, still do acute care, still kind of be in the mix, but without being on your feet, your whole shift and doing all of that. Critical care coordination is awesome. It's really good.
And did you have to have experience as a critical care nurse for that? Because I know you came from NICU.
Yeah, so no, I didn't. I applied for it. So as my regular staff job, when I applied for the position, I had no experience in critical care coordination, and why they hired me, I have no clue. But they gave me the job.
Yeah,
you fit the position, okay? That's why they hired you.
They trusted me. I'm happy that they did. They gave me my orientation, and I was like, oh my God, I wonder if I can travel with it. And once I learned that you could travel with it, I was out the door.
That's great.
Okay, so the next question says, how quickly did you all leave your first job? I've been working for 5 months and I hate it here. I want to work in pediatrics. What do you guys think about someone leaving after a year or even earlier? So, I can kind of touch on that because I left my position at about 4 months, but I was applying within the first month, but it was because, again, I knew it just wasn't the position for me. So typically I would say that I'm against it, surprisingly, but I don't think that anyone should be miserable at a job. So if you hate it, you don't see yourself growing in the position, which is this is all of how I felt. If you don't see yourself growing in that position or that hospital, if you're unable to transition to a different unit within that institution or anything of that, then I would suggest exploring other options, but just make sure that your other options have more pros than what you're currently at. So I weighed out my pros and cons before quitting my job. But again, it was more cons with my first position before I got to where I am now. So I quit my first job at 4-month marks. But again, because I'm more so of a person that doesn't like to switch jobs, I wanted to start in a place as a new grad, just like how Ashley's been at her job for so many years. Like I wanted to start somewhere and see myself being able to grow. So I'm currently in that and I'm happy. So go with your gut feeling. If you want to get into pediatrics, apply, just like Caitlin said, to apply to those positions. Someone's going to call you back. It is a huge shortage. Don't get discouraged. And when you get that call back, then jump on it. But until then, stay where you are.
Yeah, I agree with Zanira. My first job, I was a NICU nurse in Baltimore, and I thought it was good. I absolutely hated it. So I ended up quitting. Maybe 5 months I was there, My mother was like, "Why are you quitting?" I'm like, "Because it stinks. I hate it. I don't want to do that anymore. It's making me not like, nursing." So I would definitely say, if you feel like you want to do something different, start applying for your next position. Make sure that you're good and that you're sure of what you want to do the next go around, and then go for it. Don't stay if you're just not happy, because it's going to reflect in your work. So,
right.
That's true.
Absolutely. Awesome. So the next question is, Ashley, how are you able to balance your work, school, clinical, and personal family life?
I kind of touched on it a little bit during a question that you asked me, but I think the biggest thing with juggling such major roles is you just got to pick one, you got to prioritize, and two, you just got to pick what you're willing to sacrifice.
Yeah.
And for me, obviously, my daughter was number one, right? So then to me, then came work, and then came school. And a lot of people was like, well, school should come before work. But to me, it's like, once you already have a career that, you're in, and it's kind of like, it's your profession. So it's not a job, it's what you're doing. And you know what I mean? You went to school to do this. You kind of have to prioritize that, especially when, you're in the real life and you're an adult and you have bills. Which was different for me as an undergrad. You know what I mean? I was just a student. I worked as a tech for 2 years, whatever. But after you get your priorities together, you figure out, okay, well, this is what's important. Okay, so now what do I have to lose in order to make time for these things? Mm-hmm. I tell people all the time, I probably slept maybe 4 hours within a 24-hour period. And that was just what I was willing to sacrifice, is my sleep. I still had a social life. I wasn't willing to give that up, me personally, because that would have affected my mental health, and then I wouldn't have been a good nurse, mom to anyone. But and then another thing that I'm very big on is just planning. Like, I don't wake up and figure out what I'm going to do for the day. My day's already planned out. I'm going to study from this time. I'm going to spend time with my daughter during this time, and I might have a drink with my homegirl later on at this time. So, I mean, it worked for me. It was very stressful, and it did become exhausting, but I guess I kind of just got used to it and told myself that it was going to be temporary, and you make it to the finish line, and then you do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
So the next question's for you again, Ashley. Give us 5 of your top study tools to ensure success.
I'm gonna try and think of 5, but just to give them off the top of my head, the first thing you got to do is figure out what kind of learner you are. And I touched on this like on a rant I had on Instagram one day, but if you don't know what kind of learning style you are, you're not gonna figure out what's the best way in order for you to effectively study. I was telling people, on my Instagram, I cannot listen to save my life. Like, I'm a horrible listener. I can get an A in the class with never going to one lecture ever. But you know what I mean? I know that I need to see and write it and study it again, and then write it some more in order for me to, retain that content. I'm going to be successful. So I feel like the first thing you got to do is figure out, how you learn and which way you learn best. And then, the second thing I feel like you have to do is you have to plan out your week. What content am I covering this week? Okay, well, what content am I going to cover this day? Okay, well, this day I'm going to, study from this time to this time. And then later on, I'm going to review and do questions. Like, you got to make it, because if you look at everything as like one big chunk of what I got to know, you're going to become overwhelmed, and you're going to be anxious, and you're going to feel like this is too much. But if you cut it up into things that seem much more, doable, you're going to like relieve stress, and it's going to feel like you're accomplishing something bit by bit. And then the last thing I would say is to just do as many questions as you possibly can. Like, you can read stuff all day long, but if you don't know how to apply that information, you're doing yourself an injustice in nursing school. And I ain't got 4 or 5, but maybe I'll come up with them by the end of this.
Oh, some people say congrats, Miss Shirley, and Jenny said
thank you guys.
Congrats. So our next question is, hello ladies, I'm currently taking med-surg. I'm about 6 weeks in, and it's the hardest term. yeah, my biggest problem is test taking and pulling it all together. Any advice? So med-surg is definitely very broad and the most challenging, but you got to know that material to be able to progress in school. So I would say just again figure out your style, just kind of what Ashley was like about. Figure out your style of learning, whether it's if you need to do flashcards, if you need to watch videos. Like I reading before nursing school, but I took a class and honestly I failed it, and it's because I did not read. When I retook it, I read and I got an A. So even if you figure out your style and that style's not working, you might just have to switch up the style a little bit. So that kind of happened to me. I switched up my style, began reading. So that worked for me. That's how it stuck. So now even to this day, like I have to see it. Like I have to read it. I have to know why. Like you can't just tell me, oh, X, Y, and Z happened. I need to know what led up to X, Y, and Z and what caused X, Y, and Z. Like that's just the person I am. That's probably why I work in the ICU. But that's just how I am. So figure out whatever style works for you, whether it's you need to watch YouTube videos, or if you need to make flashcards, or if you need to just sit down in a room and read, or if you need to work in a group. I didn't really work in groups until I was ready to review. I don't suggest working in study groups until you're ready to review. So
I agree.
My study groups, we went in.
Is anybody else frozen?
I think
she froze a little bit. Well, that's okay. To kind of close out what she was saying, I think that I would agree with the tidbit on don't work in study groups until you are ready to review. And I would also kind of suggest that I feel like med-surg is such a stomach puncher when you get into nursing school, because it's one of those classes that requires you to study for long periods of time. And I know prerequisites are, you know what I mean, challenging and so on and so forth. But I think med-surg is one of those classes where it's really like, it's a wake-up call. And it tells you, you know what I mean, basically what nursing school is going to look like for, you know, what's to come. And I think that once you get there, if you are willing to put the time in, you normally will be able to be successful. Oh, yeah, she's frozen.
Okay, you want to do the next question? What inspired you to pursue nursing as a career?
I feel like we get this one a lot just from our patients.
Yeah. I think with me, I feel like I'm like a nurturing, and I just always wanted to care for people. I know that probably sounds like cliche, but yeah, I just wanted to I love caring for people. So that's kind of what made me want to become a nurse.
Yeah, I think I would agree. I think I was more so like compassionate, more towards like the older people. And, you know, like when I was young, my mind was just like, okay, like old people, nursing home, I'm gonna be a nurse. But you know what I mean? Now, obviously it's such a bigger spectrum than that. But I think that my mind was just like, I could do this. Like I remember being in high school and like all I wanted to do was just work in a nursing home. Like I didn't care if I was feeding them pudding. Like I just wanted to work in a nursing home. And I don't know. I think once you figure out what your niche is when it comes to nursing, you kind of draws you in, and you decide that it's for you.
Yeah. For me personally, both my parents are, so I feel like I kind of grew up in it. So at first I feel like I didn't really have a choice but to be a nurse. But once I got, you know, old enough to make my own decision about what I wanted to do career-wise, I knew that nursing was exactly what I wanted to do. When I picked my high school, I went to a pre-nursing high school. You know, I knew exactly, you know, that nursing was the thing for me. So just like Kaylin was saying, you know, you're naturally nurturing and, you know, compassion and all that good stuff. So that helps too. But yeah, my parents being healthcare professionals definitely kind of, you know, pushed me in that lane. But I do love nursing. I love it.
We jump to the next question, right? What inspired
you? Yeah.
Nursing?
We
okay,
just
good.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Z, you're next. We already all spoke.
Oh my God, I was gone that long?
Yeah.
Okay. So what inspired me to choose nursing? So originally, guys, I was going to go to school for something completely different. It was like accounting. But then my mom had this long talk with me. And honestly, I mean, before that, I was like, I mean, at 18, you don't really know what you want to do when you're choosing a career. But when I started to have the conversation with her, and then looking back onto my little sister and my grandmother, like she's been in the healthcare field for I don't even know how long. So just seeing my grandmother go to work and take care of like everyone else and coming back home and like talking to me about it. And then my little sister spent a lot of her time in the NICU when she was first born. So just being by my mom's side during that time at a very young age, helping my mom out with that. And then when she came home, it was certain things that she came that also needed some like bedside attention. So I was like a little mini nurse for my little sister. So just during that time period, I just loved that. And again, seeing my grandmother do it. So they kind of inspired me to choose this career. And if I could go back, I wouldn't choose anything else but this. I can't see myself being anything else. Let's see, what's the next question? Some kudos. All right.
Love to see it.
That's great.
Let's see. Some travel nurses on my unit are bomb, but there are ones that do literally the bare minimum and get paid. Oh, okay. They were just commenting on our discussion. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, that's just to each his own, man. To each his own.
Does grades matter? It looks like it's the next question that I see.
Yeah. Does grades in nursing school
okay. Grades in nursing
school. Absolutely not.
Not at all.
See your degree and your passing your NCLEX and getting your license is what
matters. Right.
And jobs don't care about.
They don't even ask. They don't know if your license is on the Maryland Board of Nursing or whatever Board of Nursing state you're in. They want to know if your license is plastered on that website, and that's it.
I only had one. My new grad. Well, when I first started as a nurse, my first job that I got, they had asked for a copy of my degree. But other than that, all the other jobs that I've applied to, they've never asked for my degree, a copy of it. Just
for my transfer, but they literally just asked to see what school I went to. They never looked at, like, no recruiter is looking at your grades.
Verify it.
I mean, if you fail in classes, though, you might need to retake something and really prepare yourself for the NCLEX. But other than that, you're good.
You're passing. You're okay.
Okay. Do you think people lie about the number of questions they got? Literally, everyone says 75. I don't think people lie. I think
you never know. People are crazy.
I mean,
crazy.
You never know.
It's not that deep though. Like, don't lie.
I mean, like for instance, like I got mine in the minimum amount of questions. I think for us it was I passed in 60, but I never mentioned it because again, I'm not big on like, oh, this is that, like spreading that around. I mean, some people, it just depends on the person whether they're humble or not. So some people they might lie. Who knows?
I don't put nothing past nobody. Some people have a lot of pride issues and just want to like one up people, but it's really not that serious.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
It said, do any of you guys mentor nurses, baby nurses in the DMV? Please say yes.
I'm more than willing to mentor anyone that has questions, especially regarding nursing school or NP school. I feel like I'm very open to that.
Yeah, same. My box is always open. Anybody can ask me anything. I get questions all the time, and I'm
same.
Been happy to help. So, have any questions? Let me know.
Same. I mean, I'm pretty busy and caught up in things, but I also do like helping people again. That's why I wanted to have this forum today, to, allow us all to kind of mentor you guys a little bit. Mm-hmm. But again, if you have any questions, my DMs are open for that. I don't see any other questions populating. So I think that is all for the Q&A. Look, we wrapped it up in under 2 hours. I didn't even think we were going to go this long. But I'm definitely very proud of
good stuff.
I know. I'm definitely very proud. I was like, man, this is going to be over in like 10 minutes. But I'm definitely very grateful for everybody's participation and everything like that. I wanted to thank you 3 ladies again for agreeing to do this with me. This is just an idea that I randomly had one day. And I was like, I already know who I want to be on it specifically. Like, has to be them. Like, it has to be. So when you guys said like yes back, I was like, oh my God, even for Kaylin, like I was nervous even asking her, even though she's my best friend. I'm like,
I would have no choice. Like,
but I was just like, oh my God. So when you guys agreed, I was just so happy. I was like, yes, it's happening. I can't believe it actually happened.
I was happy when you asked me.
thank you for giving us
I
the
was like,
opportunity.
me?
Yeah, I felt like the chosen one.
The chosen one.
So yes, I think this was definitely a great forum, and I'm happy that we were able to do this and answer all of you guys' questions. Who knows what the future holds? It was a good amount of participation today. If you guys do want to see more of this, shoot us all DMs and let us know, and just comment on this post. This live will be available on my YouTube channel following this as well, so you guys will be able to see it. If it's parts that you did miss, you'll be able to go back and watch those. Again, thank you guys all. I'm going to be logging off of this soon for us. We'll ending the podcast soon. Ending the panel soon. Again, just before I leave, I just got to thank you guys again because I was so nervous.
Everybody did great.
Yeah.
Right. So yes, it was good. Good, definitely good discussions. Good discussions had. So maybe we'll run this back in the future. Who knows? If we can all find another day, I don't know. It was. I honestly felt like that was going to be the biggest challenge, was finding a day that we all.
Everybody has off.
Right, exactly. So I'm surprised that I was able to do it. But hey, guys, so that's it. Thank you again, guys, and I'll see everyone later. I'm going to end the podcast. You guys can stay in the room, but I'm going to end the live.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.